Hey, so I just want to remind you that you are a divine being. That your divinity is your real truth, and the divine soul of sheer light and energy that you are chose to come here for a purpose. And chances are, from everything that I'm understanding, you've, just like me, we've embodied many, many, many times, and we're embodying each time to continue learning lessons to come closer and closer to remembering who we are. And if you found this video and you're listening to me and you're interested in something called Divinity School, and I don't know what I'll title this video, but anything having to do with your divine purpose, chances are you're pretty far along your journey to waking up, and there's a reason that we're resonating with each other and that our vibration and frequency is attracting each other. So I'm really glad that you're here and that you're feeling the call of your divine self, and that it's brought you here to Divinity School. So I've been reading a dear friend of mine who is the curator of the YouTube channel Wisdom of the Ages, which, if you've never listened to, is a literal gold mine of spiritual teachings. It was originally called Audio Enlightenment years ago, and it's how I first started listening to the teachings of Neville Goddard. And so head on over to Wisdom of the Ages, giving voice to Wisdom of the Ages. That's what it's called, if you haven't ever listened to it. But the curator of that channel turns me on to, so right now I'm about halfway through reading A Course in Miracles, and I'm on day 67 of the workbook, which, by the way, day 67 is, here's a good thing to remember throughout your day if you want to remember your divine self: love never holds grievances. Love never holds grievances, and love is the truth of what we are. So the curator of Giving Wisdom to the Ages turned me on to another follow-up to, so A Course in Miracles was channeled through Helen Schumann, who was a professor of psychology at Columbia University, had no interest in anything spiritual, total atheist, self-proclaimed atheist, but ended up becoming a channel just through realizing that there had to be another way, a more peaceful way to live, because the psychology department of Columbia University was rife with narcissism and defensiveness and just all of these things. And so one day the head of the department for the Department of Psychology at Columbia University basically said, there has to be another way. That's what he said to the psychologist. He said, there has to be another way. We have to figure something else out. Like, this isn't working. We're supposed to be this Department of Psychology, and yet, like, we're so psychologically unhealthy. Like, what's going on? So shortly thereafter, one of the professors of psychology, Helen Schumann, started having these really poignant symbolic dreams, and she told the head of her department about them. He said, you need to start writing those down. She started writing them down, and then one day, unmistakably, she channeled a voice. Thereafter, she always called it the voice. This is, again, someone who had no interest and was probably originally quite resistant to spiritual things, and the first thing the voice said to her was, this is A Course in Miracles. She then spent the next 7 years working with the head of the Department of Psychology at Columbia University to publish A Course in Miracles, which she originally didn't even publish with her name because she knew she was just a channel. My point for sharing that story is that A Course in Miracles, it's not a coincidence that it came through a very intellectual mind. I mean, we could probably safely say one of the most brilliant psychological and traditionally psychologically trained intellectual minds in the country at the time, in the 1970s. And so A Course in Miracles is very much aimed at the mind. It's a very cerebral experience, and the flavor of it is very cerebral. And if you've listened to much Marianne Williamson, who I love, and I would highly recommend her sort of orations or sermons on YouTube that are all focused on A Course in Miracles, but the flavor of it is very cerebral, very mind. And so the curator of Giving Voice to the Wisdom of the Ages recently turned me on to, I guess you could call it the follow-up, but again, it's Jesus or Yeshua being channeled, and it's called A Course of Love. And it was another woman, I'm forgetting her name right now, who channeled it, but I have a feeling that she was a rather different flavor, the channel that was needed to channel A Course in Love would have been much more heart-centered rather than cerebrally centered. And for me, it's just been exactly what I needed to hear. I'm still doing A Course in Miracles, and that's really important for me. But for my own self, I think that our heart is what we associate with love, right? And love is what we are. A Course in Miracles tells us that as well. And really, anyone Neville Goddard says that too. Like, anyone who has had these internal spiritual experiences with the divine, that's what it all keeps coming back down to, is God is love. I mean, the Bible says that too. God is love. And so for me, I've needed to go there a little bit more and kind of, just be a little bit more coming from that place of love. And one thing that I've already learned, so I would check out A Course in Love if you're into it. I think I'm not sure if it's on Giving Voice to the Wisdom of the Ages, but it's probably on YouTube, or you can definitely order it as a book, A Course of Love. But one of the things that I've loved so much about it is this idea. So it's all about, and A Course in Miracles talks about this too, part of the spiritual journey is coming to realize that everyone is you, because we're all one. If we're all one, then everyone has to be me, and I must be everyone. And this can be a tough pill to swallow, but it's also true from a physics standpoint, as far as there's only one energy. We're all only made out of one energy. So this outer world wants to tell us that we're separate, but what A Course in Love teaches that I really, really like. Oh, and I'll just throw in, that's the point of the golden rule, right? To treat others as you would like to be treated. Why? Because because it's you that you're actually treating that way. Or it's Christ, if you want to see it that way. Or it's God. Everyone is God. How would you treat God? Everyone is Christ. How would you treat Jesus? And right, we see all these fairy tales with this parable. It's like the beggar or the ugly, decrepit person, and you just walk by them, and then they turn into a divine prince, and it's like, hey, you didn't help me. Like, that was me. That was God. I was just testing you. And that's like every single person that comes into our life. So according to A Course in Love, the idea is to recognize that every single person in our life, and that means every single person, probably also like animal and building and piece of matter, but basically every single person that comes into our awareness is someone who's actually helping us to fulfill our divine purpose. And us recognize, so we're not in this alone. I mean, we are, in the sense that we're all one in a funny way. But the point is, we have this funny idea, right? That, and this is so the ego, and this is so when we're asleep, but that's like, okay, I have to prove that I can do it all on my own, and then I'll know that I'm good enough, and then I'll know that I'm doing it. And as long as we're doing that, we can't fulfill our divine purpose. So I just want to say, you have a divine purpose to fulfill, and what's beautiful about it is when you really tune into that, meditation helps, or just going on anywhere where you can kind of let the mind as the Tao Te Ching says, let the mud settle till the water is clear. And then, you know, you start to have those like, oh, wow, this idea, and those kind of connect. And so whether it's meditation with your eyes closed, or sitting alone with your eyes open in the garden, or going for a walk, just somewhere where you can clear your mind, and those, you know, God or the Holy Spirit, your big mind rather than your little mind, can start talking to you and reminding you about why you're here. And once you start getting those messages, it's so amazing to remember that every single person who's in your life is actually here to help you fulfill that divine purpose. It's not going to be in ways that are obvious to the ego. Like because the ego is the one that was telling you, you need to do this all by yourself and everyone else is just in your way. Like, no, don't listen to that. Every single person, and sometimes it's in ways that the ego doesn't really like, because a lot of times, especially in the beginning of the journey, those people are here to show us where we're struggling. Like, they're here to show us where we're resisting union. And love is union. Love is oneness. So when we can accept others as ourselves, and there was a affirmation that I loved from A Course in Love today, which is, I dedicate my heart to union. So anytime that we're feeling separateness, that we're feeling like we want to hold on to something and keep, whether it's a grudge or a talent or just anything, like a sentiment that we're resisting, that we're feeling this resistance and we're feeling negative emotions, just saying, I dedicate my heart to union. And accepting that person or that situation as one with us, choosing love instead of fear, accepting them as one with us, and accepting that this situation or this person is actually here to show me how I am love, and how I can more so experience that I am love. And this person or the situation, whatever it is, literally everything that comes into your awareness at any given moment, including that motor that just drove by, that's somehow here to remind me about my divine purpose. And not, you know, and instead of resisting, just welcoming into union. So yeah, I love that affirmation. I dedicate my heart to union, just over and over again. And realizing when you are really coming into your divine purpose, the only way that we can fulfill it is through union. That's the only way that we can fulfill our divine purpose, because divinely, in our energy, in our spirit, we are all one. And we're all here to express that truth in our different ways. And you know, your soul knows what that is. And again, if you're here listening to this video, then that's your soul talking to you through me. Like, I'm just here to make union with you, to help you. And you're here to help me if you're connecting with my energy. So again, you know, the outside would tell us that we're all separate and that we have to do it by ourselves. And it's that kind of thinking that actually is keeping us from fulfilling our divine purpose. And I don't know about you, but I'm ready. I'm ready to wake up. I'm ready to wake up, and I'm ready to ascend to higher spiritual realms. I want to help this world that is me. You know, I'm here in human form because I still have so much to learn here, but I'm ready to learn it and move on and get closer to the reality of the love and the spirit that I am in experience. And if that's where you are too, then I'm glad that you're here, and I hope that my videos can help give you courage to that. I love you. I know you are divine, and I'm here to live my divine truth so I can help you live yours. That's why I'm here. I love you. I believe in you. I see you. I am one with you. I dedicate my heart to union.